Hello everybody, I'm very excited to tell you that today we are starting a new series about how do we climb in rating ladder in chess. I'm super excited about this series as a chess coach because I want to help my own students improving their game. And I had this mission that I went online and I checked so many online games to find typical patterns, typical issues, and typical evolution of certain recurring themes in people's games so that I could give you unique insights about how you reach certain levels in chess and what are your issues at your rating category. So the overarching goal of this series, folks, is twofold. First of all, as I said, I want to give you much more unique insights for you to improve and reach your next level. Second of all, I want to track the emergence of certain skills in chess progress. I think that's a very interesting project, right? Because people usually say, hey, go and study tactics and you will reach the next level. But things are much more complex than that. We must give them much more specific guidances, focusing on different aspects of their games. So this is also one idea, overarching goal of this series. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to tell you the truth. Yeah, I'm actually inviting all the chess coaches and all the chess community to come and challenge me and share their ideas and their unique insights about the best way of improving in chess and reaching particular rating milestones, right? I'm a scientist, so I'm actually encouraging a debate, a scientific debate of finding the best way of improving our game and giving the best advice to our students, because there are so many people out there. Just check this out, right? It's a chess.com rapid rating distribution. There are so many people playing chess more than ever these days, usually online. That's why I chose chess.com rapid rating progress for this series. And again, if you look at this distribution of people of rating ranges, you will see that there are so many people, right, around level 500 on chess.com. So, and as you, of course, progress, as you become stronger, then people are just coming less and less at that rating range. So my thought for this series is to give you one video about how to reach 800, one on 1000, maybe 1200, 1500, 1800, and then 2000, and perhaps one more, 2200. This is my overarching goals for this series, just to show you what kind of mistakes are recurring and what you need to do to improve your chess. And don't forget one thing, you can't compare the ratings between different servers, right? So we only talk about chess.com ratings. They are different in different online chess servers. Also, they are different in FIDE, okay? But overarching goals are very important for me for this series, yeah? As I said, I want to find whether particular skills emerge in a certain order in our chess progress. And also, I want to let you know about the common problems at your level, and so that we can give you more specific advice for you to reach your next level. And I structure this entire series around those 4 questions. Those questions will guide us throughout this series. First one is, what are the most common issues at lower levels, right? For example, if the idea is to reach 800 as today's video, I will show you what kind of mistakes are happening at below 800, because that's crucial for us to understand what we are comparing or what we are progressing over, right? And then again, the second question is, what skills does this level have that is not present before? And then what should be studied to reach this level? And here I want to give you much more particular advice, specific advice, rather than, hey, go and study tactics, right? Because that's what you keep hearing oftentimes. I want to be much more particular. And finally, final question, what are the typical errors at this level so you become aware of those recurring issues to reach the next level as well? And this final question, right, will connect with our next video on this series, right? So we can reiterate the process like this. I thought this structure would be smart to present this series to you folks. I hope you agree. 5 areas I focus on when I'm presenting this series, yeah? First of all, we will talk about tactical vision / board vision, which is a very important thing, especially in lower levels, right? See how people differ, how people progress over rating ranges with this. Second, very important thing as well, it's about safety. It's about seeing and identifying the threats and also checking for blunders. As you know, chess is a very cruel game, and there are so many games that are lost because of people not caring about the threats or not checking for blunders. You'll be amazed at how many games are won or lost like this, especially at lower levels, right? So we need to also talk about that. Here I think I found unique insights about particular progress around signet threats and blunders, right? I'm actually very happy about presenting this to you throughout this entire series. And also openings, right? Important. What kind of opening play are going on, and what are the recurring issues, and what kind of rating range differences exist in opening play. Positional play I will talk about is a different category and areas, and also of course endgame knowledge, theoretical endgame knowledge, and so on. Yeah, so these are my ideas that I will, for each rating category, I will present you with those positions from these 5 areas so that we can give you much more specific feedback and guidance and help. You can always go back to this video and watch it again in the future, right? You don't need to be 800 right now, but at some point in the future, if you reach 800 or if you're about to reach 800, you can always come back and watch this video again. If you're hitting plateaus, folks, come back and watch this video again. And please give me feedback and send me your ideas and challenge me, please, so we find all together the best way of improving in our beautiful game. Now let's go and start this video. We are talking about the most common issues at lower levels, and we are talking about how to reach 800. So I'm going to show you so many nice and interesting examples of what kind of mistakes are happening below 800. Chess.com. Rapid. Okay? So, as you probably already figured this out, people below 800, they hang their pieces and they may not take free pieces. This is a very common issue. Board vision, right? Like their tactical vision is so limited that they don't, and this is the biggest cause of mistake or losses, I would say. Yeah, that's how people lose games at this level. Also, they don't see direct threats, also mate in ones, for example, as I will show you. They are usually weakened tactical patterns, right? All these patterns have not been assimilated yet in their minds. So, and I will show you how slow progress takes over also in these rounds. Counting errors, right? Very common mistake. If you attack a pawn with 2 pieces and your enemy has only 1 defender, then you can take it, right? It's a basic counting. But below 800, people have issues with this very basic process of counting as well. Openings are completely random, unprincipled. They check for the sake of checking, queen out too early, all kind of crazy stuff going on in the opening, as you figured out yourself as well, right? This is a very common issue below 800 as well. Endgames almost non-existent. Very difficult to find a game that actually reaches an endgame. And even if it reaches an endgame, people's knowledge are very limited. I will also show you some examples. And finally, again, strategic and political decisions just not visible at all. You don't see any strategic decision taking place, like no caring about exchanges, weak squares, pawn play are also quite messy and random, right? And I will show you right now some positions to back my claim, okay? Check this out. This is a game between 2 below 800 players. In this position, white takes on g8. Instead of taking back the bishop, black goes on and takes the pawn on a2. Instead of taking the free queen, white checks on f7, and black doesn't take the queen, and finally white sees the queen and takes it. Please don't have fun, because we've all been there at some point in our evolution, in our chess life, right? And this is not an exception. This is the norm, basically. What you just see in this segment is happening all the time. You'll be surprised and amazed, perhaps, of how often these mistakes are happening at this level, right? Board vision, safety, and not taking free pieces, and hanging their pieces. If people solve this issue, then they will show instant progress in their game. We're going to see how 800 chess.com are different at this level as well, right? So these are, of course, one of the most typical issues. Probably 800 person would take the queen on a2. So that's will be my claim. That will be my hypothesis. By the way, in this series, I will come up with certain hypotheses and ideas, right? I will tell you, for example, hey, probably 800 will take this. That's my idea, because I've seen so many games at that level. So I hypothesized that this will probably result at certain levels. If you don't disagree, please write down your ideas in the comment box, okay? So this is, as I said, a very common issue at this level. Let's go on. I will show you one more position. So in this position, white has an extra rook. Black just goes rook g8. And my question is, what should white do? What's the right thought process? And this is a game of below 800 with white pieces. With an extra rook, they go h6. and black mates on g2. Huge issue, right? People also below 800, they miss huge threats, like mate in one threat is oftentimes missed, and that's how people lose games. White an extra rook, and if he just plays rook g1 in this position, white is completely winning, right? But it's about this recurring thought process of whenever your opponent makes a move, you must check for threats, especially direct checks, right? It's easier to check for checks as a threat rather than maybe some other threats like captures or threats. I will come back to it because I think I find some unique insights of how people progress over seeing the threat area, because there are actually interesting insights there as well, much more particular and unique differences between different rating levels, folks. But below 800, they don't even see this next and instant check with a huge mate in one threat, and white loses. My idea would be 800 will probably see this mate in one. That's my hypothesis. Not always, of course, but usually. Coming to the opening phase. Now we're going to talk about how random openings are below 800. Just check this out. Black sees the check with the queen and just checks for the sake of checking. Yeah, there's no meaning. If they see a check, then they check it and see what happens. Yeah, that's also a very common issue because they can't plan one move ahead. They just basically go for this direct instant checks and then just say, see what happens. Maybe I have something. Then maybe I have a mate, for example. Yeah, queen out too early. So many moves with the queen. White attacks the pawn on c7. Black doesn't see it. White takes, and instead of taking the free rook, white goes back. Again, I'm not going to show you any more moves in this game, but I guess the message is clear. Opening play is also completely unprincipled and random, and this is also the norm below 800. And as people progress, as you reach 800, these kind of randomness disappear. Of course, opening play is still bad, but it's bad in a different way, and actually in a more advanced way. We're going to talk about this very, very soon, folks. Please bear with me. Here so far, I show you so far, just to take a step back, right? Let's go back to our slides. What I have shown you so far are the issues that are faced at lower levels, right? Now, we're going to talk about, very interestingly, right? We're going to talk about the next slide. Skills that 800 players have. What kind of skills did they progress? Did they actually evolve over time? Yeah. So these are my next positions. For example, board vision and safety, they are better than below 800. They usually take free pieces, and they usually don't hang. They of course still hang pieces, but not as often as below 800, right? They usually see mate in one threats, and basic tactical patterns are established. That's interesting. I will show you some examples today with 800 players are doing some really, really good tactical shots and tactical decisions. Counting errors, very important, become rare. So whenever, like, let's say there are two attackers and one defender, they then understand that they can take that thing, right? Very important progress. They manage to create threats. And this is my, let's say, unique insight in this one. What I found so far is that around 800, people start just giving, generating one move threats. And that's interesting. Maybe that's sort of the first step of real calculation and planning ahead, right? Of course, you need that in chess. And I think around 800, we are really seeing this skill to be established. It is not present so much below 800. I will show you some examples. Finally, openings are more goal-directed, right? Not as random as you've just seen before, but still cheap tricks based on one-move threats. Like they go for scholar mate, they go for, as I will show you here. We are coming very, very soon, folks. I'm going to show you a position. Now we are looking at a game of two 800s. Check this out. They go queen h5. Why? Because they are able, as I said, to generate one-move threats. But their openings are still unprincipled because the queen is going out too early, and it usually works, actually, right? It's actually interesting because lower levels, people don't see this threat on e5. As I told you before, right? Below 800, they also miss, for example, mate in one threats. So this kind of behavior gets rewarded because people don't see a pawn hanging on e5. They even sometimes play g6, right? And you must have fallen for this. We have all maybe fallen for this at some point, and they lose, right? So this, of course, also breeds this kind of irresponsible behavior, queen h5. And since it's rewarded, people keep playing these moves at this level. But it also shows that, for example, even here, right? Because, that's interesting, because counting, right? Counting is established, 800, because they can count. Hey, I have 2 attackers and you have 1 defender. And as I said, they are able to generate 1 more threats. So you see this kind of play in the opening emerging around 800, folks. And this was one of my interesting, let's say, insights or observations that I found when I was looking at those games. And if the opponent misses that, then they mate because they see, right? They see that they generate a threat. They can generate mate in 1 threats and they can execute it if the opponent blunders. Okay? Right, so let's go on. Let's go on and see what else are established for 800 players. Check this out, folks. In this position, black is completely winning. Black has extra material. Black just got the rook on h1. Black should be winning. And white is an 800 player. And as I told you, white is able to generate 1 more threats. And white tactical awareness has also improved. c5 plays white. And can you tell me what white has seen here? Of course, white's plan is to go bishop b5 check followed by queen takes h1. Around this level, people's tactical vision improves. They generate 1 more threat, and this discovered attack is becoming possible for white to play for. And in the actual game, below 800 person plays b6. He doesn't see the threat, and white goes for it. White wins the queen and later the game. You see around here, basic tactical vision and tactical skills are established. In this case, it was discovered attack. I will show you 1 more position. Again, black player with around 800. Takes. Black here goes queen d4 with a typical double attack. And white, below 800 person doesn't see the threat, castles, and black takes the free knight. Again, around 800, we see that basic tactical motifs, in this case, double attack. Also, you might say, some typical opening tactical vision, right? So in this opening, of course, it's a very typical team when they take on a5 to go queen d4 with double attack, take the pawn, right? Around here, you also see some basic opening knowledge around tactics are emerging. That was interesting. Now, 800 players, as I said, they're able to generate 1 more threat. This is an interesting position, folks. What should black do in this position? Please stop the video and find a good move for black. Black in this position, actually, if you count the material, black has a rook for 2 knights, but white king is not safe, and black goes bam, bishop b3. In fact, bishop a2 was even a stronger move here, competitive winning because of this mate. But we should congratulate a 800 player of seeing bishop b3 with this huge mate and 1 threat. As I told you, they can able to generate 1 more threats, mating threats. And white's only move here is queen e4, but white doesn't see it, and black mates. Beautiful. So my hypothesis is that below 800, people don't see it, and they just check for the sake of checking. They will check and see what happens, right? So from my observation so far, I think this will be the most likely hypothesis. But when you reach 800, you're able to generate 1 more threats. You understand that checks for the sake of checking is not always good, and you start to play planfully, right? The first steps of generating a plan emerges. Beautiful. Bishop b3. Again, queen e4 was the only move to keep, let's say, white in the game and prevent mate in 1. But around this level, it's also a difficult task for people to find those only moves. Okay? So let's go on, folks. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing so far. Now, let's go back to our slide. And just to recap so far we've seen what skills 800 players have that are usually missing below 800. And now I'm going to show you what should be the focus to reach 800. What kind of precise or more exact study methods or training methods you should execute to reach this level. I'm not going to only tell you, hey, go and study tactics, because everyone is telling you that already. You know that. Obviously, tactics are important. Obviously, we should develop our tactical vision by constant solving of puzzles. But there are more to that, because more specifically, as you saw already, board vision is very important, because below 800 people just hang their pieces and they don't take free pieces. So you must be able to execute this effortlessly. You must be able to capture free pieces. So, of course, you should play more and gain more experience. That's also, of course, important. You can maybe solve some puzzles, for example, that only asks you to take a hanging piece. Please do it. Please do it, because your opponents will give you hanging pieces at that level, and you should be able to take those free pieces. When it comes to not hanging your pieces, I will also show you precisely what you should be doing. Root planner exercises I will show you very, very soon. Also, basic tactical pattern to win material. Material is also very important because around this level, the games are decided by hanging pieces, gaining material, and you mate with a queen, extra queen, or maybe multiple queens in the end. It's a very rare thing actually at this level that people execute sort of mating patterns or checkmating ideas. Yeah, it's actually much more common that you win material because they give it to you for free. You go to a pure end game, extra queen, and win. Mate with the queen. That's why you should also know exactly how to mate with an extra queen and rook, obviously, because that's how the games are decided. Planning one move ahead exercises, I will show you how you do it, as I told you already, because this was a separating thing that separates 800 from below 800. You should also be starting to plan ahead, right, and generate threats and so on. Spotting mate in one threat, as I told you. That's my observation, that 800 players are starting to get better at this. They can see mate in one, they can see the opponent's ideas around mate, immediate checks, then they can prevent them. So some exercises around that will also be very useful for you, right? For example, reverse puzzle, right? Let's say the opponent makes a move and you must see the threat and you must prevent it. And also, please focus on the golden rules in the opening rather than memorizing lines. Memorization is not important here. It's much more important to play sound opening moves, right? Like, don't be as crazy as the game that I just showed you, the first game, right? Just queen out too early, checks for the sake of checking and see what happens. These are not principled opening play. Just play for the center, get your pieces out, and castle your king ASAP. This will already bring you to much higher levels, actually, than 800. Just following opening principles and golden rules. Okay, so let's stop here, and I will show you positions, right? I will show you positions to describe exactly what I meant with those exercises. For example, this exercise could be nice. This is about, let's say, route planning exercises. You're planning a route. Your task with white is to get your bishop from d3 to f7 in 2 moves, but your bishop should not be captured along the way, right? Here you understand the purpose of this puzzle, that you're improving your board vision and you're preventing blunders. You're looking at the opponent's pieces and you don't hang your piece along the way. Obviously, there are 2 potential pathways. If you choose this, then the queen will capture you. It doesn't work. Then, right, you find this. If white is 2 moves in a row, then we'll go bishop c4 to f7. That's a safe route for the bishop, right? These are, it looks easy, but these are so fundamental for you folks. You should be able to do this effortlessly, right? You should be able to do this instantly to reach the next level, because that's what people do. People hang their pieces at below 800 like there's no tomorrow, right? So if you prevent this, if this becomes in your system like an automatized process, then this will show a huge difference in the end, right? So this is about board vision. And I can also show you, for example, one more exercise similarly. Let's take white in this position. And the goal is this. White can make 3 moves in a row, and in the end, white will be able to give a check. But along the way, white should not hang the bishop, right? And you see the purpose of the study. You can stop the video and find a solution for yourself. Again, make 3 moves in a row with the bishop and check the black king in the end. But along the way, don't hang your bishop. Congratulations. Let's do it together. What I'm seeing is this: bishop b6, a7, and b8. That will be check. And maybe also bishop f6, bishop g7, and bishop f8 check. Notice, in all these moves, first of all, I'm planning ahead, and I'm very careful of not hanging my bishop. I'm looking at the opponent's pieces, and I'm planning one move ahead. Again, these are the skills that will bring you, that will get you closer to 800, folks. If you're effortless in this process, it will be great. You can even set up random pieces. I mean, here I just chose, like, let's say queen and knight in different spots. You can totally get it like a free board, then place pieces like randomly, and then you can still give you a task. Okay, this is my task. I will give a check in 2-3 moves. What is the shortest route, right? You're actually route planning here, and that's also quite crucial for chess, right? Planning one move ahead, looking at the opponent's resources, and don't hang pieces are crucial skills that will always be with you in your chess life in the future, folks. Okay? So what else do you need to do to reach the next level. This is a game between Deep Fritz and Kramnik with the black pieces. Blundered terribly here. Tell me, folks, what should black do in this position? White's last move was knight f8. And what are you seeing? What should be going on in our heads here? Well, if you're below 800, probably you miss the mate in one threat. But if you're above 800 and around 800 level, I guess you saw the mate in one threat. That's my hypothesis. But the great Kramnik missed it in the actual game. Thus, black should play king g8. That's the best move. Preventing mate in one threat and hitting the knight. Black is in the game. In the actual game, Kramnik, great Kramnik, played queen e3 and he got mated after queen h7. Incredible, right? Even at highest levels, this process can sometimes falter. So you should not be too harsh on yourself, folks. That's why I show this position to you. Even super GMs, even those world champions blunder sometimes like this. But constantly solving such puzzles, seeing the threats, seeing instant threats, for example, mate in one threats, will also bring you closer to 800. And again, these are recurrent processes that will help you throughout your chess life. Very important processes. So far, we've seen what separates 800 compared to below 800. Now, as a final segment of this video, folks, I will also show you what kind of typical errors exist at 800. So you become aware of your issues. And this will also connect to our next video in this series. I will show you typical problems for 800s, and I will tell you later on how 1000s are overcoming those issues. Blunder check is a huge issue for 800. For many players, of course. This will continue to become a very important problem for many. It's our human bias, right? It's about confirmation bias and so on. Right, interesting thing. 800s, they usually spot mate in one threat. When the opponent threatens to mate in one, they usually see it, but they may castle and allow a mate, right? So it's a blunder check error, basically. That's actually interesting. I will show you an example that illustrates this. Openings are still bad, as we already show you, but not as bad as below 800. For example, 800 we're playing e4, e5, queen h5 to generate threats. And again, we'll see at higher levels, these things are also becoming better and better over time. And 800 is no real strategic understanding, blind exchanges, and blind exchanges actually will continue to be a persistent issue for a long time across the rating range. This actually was a surprising finding for me as a coach, that how difficult it is for people to decide on the correct exchange. And finally, endgames are still very rare and basic knowledge is missing. I will also show you some positions. Okay, so let's dive in to the position, folks. First position, this is a very instructive position actually. So here, with the white pieces, it's below 800, and black pieces is a player with 800. And that's interesting. I'm going to show you black's next move that illustrates nicely what I've talked about today. I found this example fascinating. You might say white creates a little bit of a threat on d7 right now. That was white's last move. And black, as I told you, they can generate one move threats around 800. So black goes, bam, knight f4. And black's idea is very simple because black sees mate in one. And in tunnel visions, he's focusing on that. And thus, black is blundering the queen on g5, right? Blunder problems. And white, guess what? Instead of taking the queen, white takes the knight because he was so focused on that threat on the knight on d7. He doesn't see the recent changes in the position. And black sees the mate on g2 and the game is over. This was a beautiful segment, folks. I think that's exactly what illustrates this entire video today, and especially on the blunder check issues, right? Black was focusing only on his plan. It's a great ability, by the way, to generate mate in one threat, as mentioned, but blunder check is far off, right? So this blunder check issue is a huge issue for many players. Here you might say black has blundered a capture, and black doesn't, let's say, you know, the queen wasn't hanging directly, but black made a move that allowed those queens to see each other, right? So this is actually one more level advanced or like more difficult blunder, then, below 800s, they don't even see hanging pieces. So their pieces get attacked, they don't see it, they lose it. So this was still, a little bit of an advanced blunder issue for black, but it's a very common and recurrent issue. Okay, so this example I find fascinating to shows us the difference between below 800 and 800 folks. What else? 800 players, they are usually, as mentioned, able to see mate in one threats, but they can castle into a mate. So this is a game between two 800 players. And here comes the key moment. White goes queen f3, and black, can you guess it? Well, black sees the attack on the rook. That's good. But black long castles, oh my god. And white mates. Again, this blunder was very interesting to me because he doesn't lose a piece that is hanging. He sees that, but he makes a move, and as a result, right, he makes a move, and as a result, he allows mate in one. So this, again, is already a step forward, a little bit of progress than below 800. Remember the first position? Below 800, they face a mate in one threat, they don't see it, then mate in one. Here, it's a one level higher, more sophisticated example, and this is also a common issue. At 800, people lose games like that, and blunder check is failing like this pattern. In later videos, I will show you how blunder check process is becoming more advanced, but still interesting problems or unique weaknesses per different level. So please remember this position, folks. Of course, I will come back to these key positions in later videos to compare and contrast what we've seen before. Again, very interesting game, this one. So two 800 players are playing, and black is able to see a tactic for himself. Here, we are coming to the critical moment. Queen 3 is a blunder, and black, as I mentioned to you, right, 800 players, their tactical vision has improved. So black can see this knight fork, takes the queen, beautiful. And now we are coming to the crux moment, very interesting. Here, black goes queen takes d5, oh my god. And black invites the same tactic to white. And instead of taking the knight, the pawn on c7, well, white was actually a little bit below 800. Actually, yeah, that's interesting. He doesn't see this knight fork, but he sees a threat on knight, and thus he goes a4, right? If knight takes e7 followed by knight takes d5, it's white who will be better in this position. So this is a fascinating finding to me because it shows us that these people around 800, they can see these basic tactical patterns, knight forks, great, but they allow the same thing to the opponent. Shows us how blunder check process is a difficult process for humans, right? We humans tend to see things for ourselves, but sometimes we bury our head and pretend that they don't exist for the opponent. Okay, so bear this in mind, folks. These are very common issues. Also, by the way, I will show you all the way to the end here after king f4. 800 players, they don't usually calculate two moves precisely in the future, yeah? So they usually focus on capturing pieces. For example, here, black has mate in 2. Can you find it? Congratulations if you found this. Mate in 2, forcing calculation. But 800 players are not there yet. They are sort of lacking this skill of engaging in short but precise calculations, 3-ply deep. Instead of going for the mate, black takes a knight because, as I said, right, around here, the tactical ability develops. So, of course, black sees this check, winning the knight, and just does that. Obviously, black is still winning in this position, doesn't really matter. But my claim will be that higher level players, maybe around 1000, they will also maybe take a step back and ask themselves whether there is mate in 2 in this position. Okay, so this again, I will talk about more about this evolution of 3-ply calculation across rating ladders. That's why this position is also here, folks. Finally, or we are about to approach the end, please bear with me, exchanges. Exchanges are terrible for a long time. For many people across rating ranges, exchanges are just blind. People think, oh, bishop is worth a knight, knight's worth a bishop, just take it. There is no consideration of piece activity, long-term potentials, weak squares. It's just exchange. So just notice that. It's an 800 play with the white pieces. Just takes a knight, despite, you know, the bishop was a good piece, the knight was not doing anything, just takes a knight. And even here, right, takes a knight as well. So white gave up the bishop pair for nothing, for no reason, and suddenly black has a winning advantage. And the end of this game is also quite interesting because black doesn't see the threat. White takes the pawn. Even here, e3 is nice. I'm just going to show you because this game actually looks like a beautiful strategic battle at first sight. H3 is of course a big mistake, but at this level, people don't really consider, weakening pawn moves. And here, instead of going for the very simple plan of H5 with the pawn storm and G4, right? Because this is about forming middle game plans. Black doesn't see it because black is still an 800 player. He goes for tactical blunder, especially here. He takes on D2 and blunders the queen, and white achieves a winning advantage. So you see, at first sight, the game looked very strategic, nice, interesting, but then the game was lost due to random blunder. And this is a very common issue at this rating range. Exchanges and pawn play are quite bad at this level. Finally, endgames, as I said, are almost non-existent. No games are usually going to an endgame at this stage. They are decided beforehand by hanging pieces and so on. But even if it goes to an endgame, they make crazy decisions because some basic endgame knowledge is just lacking. For example, here is black to move forks, and instead of going for king b4 winning, black goes a5, and 800 white player resigns in this position, despite the fact that king c3 is a simple draw. Because it's an a-pawn, right? It's a rook pawn, so the king will just stay here, and there's no way for black to make progress. So you also see interesting pattern that basic pawn endgame knowledge is also missing. Basic endgame theoretical knowledge is missing. You don't need to know 100 endgames at this level, obviously, right? There's no need for you to focus on 100 theoretical endgames at this level because of the likelihood and statistics and so on. But it will be helpful for you to learn the very, very basic stuff like opposition, king and pawn endgames, and extremely basic stuff to know. Yeah, for example, here for black, it will be nice to know this, king b4 pattern escorting those pawns. Okay, but endgames are going to be an issue for a long, long time across the rating range. I guess, folks, the lessons are clear. Let me sum up what we've seen so far, right? Again, just don't forget about the overarching goal here, right? Overarching goal is to give you more specific guidance. That's why I'm creating this series. First of all, to identify those patterns myself, and also just to tell you what kind of things are going on across rating ranges, and so that we can actually help you in a more specific way. I hope you like this format. I hope you got the right lessons for you. And please let me know in the end if there are any issues, if you have any questions, and so on. And I want to continue this for a longer time because that's also helping me as a chess coach, right? I also want to know these patterns and issues by heart. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe one of my observations was actually incorrect. Maybe you already figured out certain things around your rating range. So I'm very curious to hear your stories because people are different. Yeah, it's not like the same trajectory. What I told you here in this video are just general trends and general patterns which I witnessed across the years of chess coaching and also my recent research on this video series. If you liked what you just seen here, folks, please check out my courses for similar educational content. My courses on Chessable. Please check them out if you like it, and I'm sure you will also benefit tremendously from those courses. Don't forget to like if you like this video so we can reach more people, and don't forget to use this video as a long-term guidance and tool for you to come back and watch again and again. If I made some mistake and error, I want to make another video in the future to correct what I just said here because I really want to help you here. I just don't want to make a mistake. I just don't want to misguide you. I am doing my best with my best ability to help you in your chess progress. Thank you so much, folks, and I will catch you next video in the series.